Hari
ॐ
morning.
सदाशिवसमारम्भाम्
सदाशिवसमारम्भाम् शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमाम्
Yamam
आचार्यपर्यन्ताम् वन्दे
Vande Guru
गुरुपरम्पराम्।
Paramparam.
ॐ सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु
Bhunatu
वीर्यं कर्वावहै यस्मिनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै।
Vishwavahai.
ॐ
Om
शान्ति
Shanti
शान्ति
Shanti
शान्तिः।
Shanti.
ॐ तत्सत् ॐ नमः शिवाय गुड
ॐ
मॉर्निंग
नमः शिवाय। ॐ तत्सत् ॐ नमः शिवाय।
So in the last session we had started Brhd Upanishad and we were in the introductory bhashyam. So since the bhashyam is quite intense, I'll very briefly summarize what we did the last class and then we'll continue. So we talked about the fact that statements in Shastram are of two types: fact revealing statements, which we call Siddha Bodhaka Vakyam, and statements which enjoin action, karma, which we call Karya Bodhaka Vakyam. Right? And we saw that the Purva Mimamsa view is that Veda is pramanam only for statements of action. And that is wherever there is a statement which gives action as a result, say Karya Bodhaka statements. It says if you do this, then this will be the fruit. Only those sort of statements are pramana. But fact revealing statements are not pramana. And we saw that Shankaracharya said that is not correct. Veda is pramanam for both. And he gave the example that Karma Kanda promises that if you do certain rituals, you will get Swarga after death. Right? And we saw that Gita reference, Vasam Sijirnani Yathavihai. So, and he pointed out that if you are accepting survival of the Jivatma after death, because when you say that if you do this particular action, you will get Swarga after death, you are accepting a fact that there is survival of the Jivatma after death. And therefore, Veda also reveals fact. And if you say that Veda does not reveal a fact, then to do a ritual which will guarantee that you will go to Swarga after death is useless because it's for futile. Because you don't know. You're not accepting the fact that you're going to Swarga after death. That was the main argument. Then the Purvamamsika said that survival of the jiva can be known by logic also, not by Veda. And we saw that Shankara said that no, that's not possible because Punarjanma, Karma Phalam, these are not capable of perception, cannot be proved by logic. And therefore, we said that logic is only supportive in Shastra. All these apaurusheya vishayas, beyond human perception, they can only be revealed by Shruti. Therefore, Karma Kanda has a limitation, of course. It cannot give moksha, and the highest result is Brahmaloka only. So we saw the relationships. Karma Kanda and Jnana Kanda. The relationship is a tool and the end, the means versus the destination. Karma Kanda prepares the mind. And once the mind is prepared, Karma Kanda becomes apraman because then you are entering Jnana Kanda. And therefore, the connection between karma and moksha is only paramparik connection, paramparik sambandha. There is no direct connection. There is no sakshat sambandha. So, correct approach we said was use karma kanda like a boat, reach the shore of jnana kanda, and then renounce the boat. That is the correct approach, right? And lastly, we saw that Shruti is pramanam for Atma and rebirth because Atma is not an object of senses. And the very fact that different darshanas disagree about this, that itself proves that Atma is not perceptible because whatever is perceptible there will be no disagreement. And then finally we said that Shruti alone will operate in that area where other Praman cannot operate. So this was the very brief summary of what we did in the last class. We will continue. Shankara then goes on in his Bhashyam to look at other darshanas. So the first darshana is called Lokayata Darshana, which today we call materialism. So these philosophers, they say that there is no Atma at all. And they say there is only the body. So, and they say that body produces consciousness. So it is the reverse of what we believe. They say there is matter and consciousness produced because of the matter in your brain. So this is the modern scientific approach also, that consciousness is a product of the brain. Then Shankara here argues that if consciousness is a product of matter, matter is perceptible. Therefore, consciousness should also be perceptible. But consciousness cannot be perceived. And in fact, the Lokayatas, the materialists, deny accepting rebirth precisely because it cannot be perceived. Therefore, actually, what they are saying is we are admitting the limits of perception. And Shankara says, therefore, you cannot argue that consciousness is a product of matter. And this actually proves Shankara's point that whatever lies beyond the range of perception, and perception includes all the five senses, whatever lies beyond the range of the five senses, Indriya Agocharam, that requires another pramanam altogether, and that is Shastra. Right? So, with this short thing, he has refuted Lokayata. Of course, his refutation is much more in detail, but since we are only looking at the overall view, I am giving you very briefly. So, he refutes the Lokayatas. Then he takes up Buddhists, the Shanikavadis. What do Shanikavadis say? They accept awareness. Cognition is there. So they say there is a Shanika Atma, but they deny a permanent Atma. Shankara points out that even when the thought I know arises, the Buddhists still say there is no Atma different from this I thought, that momentary awareness called Shanika Vijnanam. So this shows that the I sense, the Shanika Vijnanam does not establish a permanent Atma. And therefore, if Atma were to be established either perceptually or by Anumanam, Buddhists would not say that there is no permanent Atma. And therefore, this denial, says Shankara, confirms that Atma cannot be established by the ordinary pramanams. But what is the pramanam the Buddhists are using? He is using intuition, is using Anuman, right? Inference. So again, Shankara uses this against them. The same argument he says, because of the argument itself, what is established is that Atma cannot be established by any of the ordinary pramanams available to us. It has to be Shruti only. Then there is the view that what is actually bondage? And Shankara gives a very, very precise definition. He says bondage is not caused by karma. What is bondage caused by? It is because of Atma Jnana, the ignorance of one's true nature, which is how does Atma Ajnanam express itself? In the form of I am Karta, I am Bhakta, I am the doer, I am the enjoyer. This is the expression of the ignorance of one's true nature. Because what is the true nature? I am a Karta, a Bhokta, Atma. But because that is not known, I say I am Karta, I am Bhokta. I am the doer, I am the enjoyer. And that is a false identification. And from that false identification, which is adhyasa, what arises? Likes and dislikes. From likes and dislikes, you have performance of action. From performance action, you have punyam papam. From punyam papam, you have rebirth. So this is the cycle of bondage as very clearly defined by Shankara. And even if you are doing Vaidika karma, what will happen? Punyam will be produced. But you will, because of the punyam, you will be reborn. Therefore, actually, he says, even Vaidika karma is a contributor to further samsara. How can you remove that bondage? Only through Atma Jnanam. Only when Atma Ajnanam is removed, the basic understanding that I am not a karta, I am not a bhokta will come, and the sequence will follow. That is the first point he makes. Then he gives the connection of karma with samsara. He says predominant papam. This is points which we have discussed before. So very useful in this particular bhashya. Shankara says that predominant papam leads to births, lower than humans, right? Insects, animals, trees, whatever. Predominant punyam leads to human birth. And he gives a few more, what do you call connections. He says punyam without jnanam leads to pitraloka. This is after death, right? You have accumulated punyam in your birth, but you have not got jnanam. Where do you go? You will go to pitraloka. Now, supposing you have, so which means this punyam is punyam arising out of karma. So, karmic punyam without upasana and without jnana. So, very important. Punyam generated out of karma, but not supplemented by upasana and not supplemented by knowledge, by jnanam, will take a person to pitraloka. Punyam generated out of karma and supplemented by upasana can take you to two lokas, Devaloka and Brahmaloka. And even, he says, even in that case, the Devaloka and Brahmaloka classification depends upon the amount of punya. So this is, first is predominant papam, lower births. Predominant punyam, higher births. Punyam without knowledge, Pitraloka. Punyam with upasana, without knowledge, Devaloka, Brahmaloka. What if you have equal punyam and equal papam? Sorry, I need to correct my sentence. Okay, I said predominant papam leads to lower births. Predominant punyam leads to higher births, not lower births. Predominant papam leads to lower births. Predominant punyam leads to higher births. And therefore, what are the higher births? Punyam without knowledge leads to Pitraloka. Punyam with upasana and karma leads to Devaloka and Brahmaloka. What about equal punyam and papam? They lead to
Human birth.
human birth, repeated human birth. And after giving all this, he says that every karmic result, all these are karmic results. Predominant punyam, predominant papam, equal punyam, equal papam, all are results of karma. And he says lower births, very much samsara. Swarga, very much samsara. Pitraloka, very much samsara. Devaloka and Brahmaloka without going to Brahmaji's classes, just for enjoyment, very much samsara. Equal punyam and equal papam, come back to human birth on this world, again, very much samsara. So every karmic result leads to samsara only. Okay. Then quotes, he makes a crucial distinction because we said that punyam with karma plus upasana, supplemented by upasana, leads to Devaloka and Brahmaloka. Devaloka, of course, When the punyam is exhausted, you come back. Shine punye martyalokam mission. And Brahmaloka, there could be a doubt. Once you go to Brahmaloka, do you come back or not? So he gives Shankara clarifies in this Bhashyam. He quotes several passages in the Upanishads saying that Brahmaloka is subject to hunger, death, and return. Therefore, even the highest, remember that Brahmaloka is the highest phalam, the highest fruit of punyam, of karma, basically. Karma plus upasana. Whatever you do by way of rituals, karma and upasana, the highest possible fruit is what? Brahmaloka. And Brahmaloka also, there is hunger, there is death, and there is return. And this is the crucial idea. Even the highest karmic fruit, highest karmic attainment still remains within the samsara. Right? Therefore, liberation is not, moksha is not a higher location. It is not travel. So you cannot say that moksha means I go to a higher loka. But moksha is freedom from lokas itself. Right? And of course, we know that in Brahma Loka, if you have sufficient punyam, you are still within samsara. But you have a choice in Brahma Loka. Do I take Vedanta classes from Lord Brahmaji or not? If you take Vedanta classes, remember you are still in Brahma Loka, you are still in samsara, but after the classes, then there is no return. So you cannot say that Brahmaloka is moksha. Brahmaloka is still very much samsara because it is subject to return. And you know that Brahmaloka is not permanent. Right? Anything which is not permanent is subject to samsara. Therefore, any travel, any loka in the universe, higher loka, lower loka, bhuloka, all are within samsara. Therefore, moksha is not a particular location. Moksha is freedom from all the lokas themselves. This is the fourth point he makes. Then he makes a fifth point that samsara is rooted in ajnana. And he says that this samsara, this world, exists in two states. The avyakta state and the unmanifest state, and the vyakta state, the manifested state. He uses two words for each. For the avyakta states, he says avyakrita. So avyakrita should be correctly understood as without differentiation. The state before manifestation, without any differentiation. That is avyakrita. And after having manifested, the state is differentiated. Differentiated how? As name, form, and karma. Nama, rupa, karma. That differentiated state, that visible manifested state, which is the universe, is called Vyakrita. Right? So Avyakrita and Vyakrita are two different words which we know as Avyakta and Vyaktaha. Both the states are rooted in avidya, rooted in ajnanam. And therefore samsara is beginningless and is not created at any time. Anadi samsara. Then he makes a sixth point. Samsara is adhyasa. And adhyasa can only be removed by jnana. He gives a very detailed classification here. He says samsara can be characterized as adhyasa, superimposition. Adhyasa means superimposition. What is being superimposed? The karta status, the karma itself, and the phalam. So he says samsara means adhyasa of three things. Karta, karma, phalam. Adhyasa upon whom? Adhyasa upon the Atma. And he quotes the example of the rope snake. Just as the knowledge that the snake is actually a rope removes the illusion of the snake. Similarly, the knowledge of the Atma, that samsara is actually Atma, removes the illusion. It removes the illusion of samsara, right? So it's only knowledge that can remove samsara, not karma. Karma can never remove adhyasa because the moment you say karma, karma comes out of what? Karma comes out of adhyasa. This I have said that he said that samsara consists of adhyasa of three things. What is that? Karta, karma, and phala. Because the karma arises out of adhyasa, remember there is no way that karma can remove its creator. Karma cannot remove adhyasa because adhyasa creates karma. That is the sixth point. Am I making sense? It's very heavy, I know, but Shankara is Shankara. And if once you go over this three, four times, it will become clear. And therefore, this bhashyam, please remember to continuously listen to it, make notes over the next few days. When we start the actual mantras, all this will make sense. Then, having said this, Shankara now says that there is a discussion in the first mantra itself, first Brahmanam itself, of a ritual called Ashwamedha. Right? And Ashwamedha is one of the highest, the most expensive and highest rituals in the Veda. What is Ashwamedha? Anybody knows? Ashwamedha Yajna. What is it?
I only know
So,
it's the sacrifice of a horse.
no, the horse is taken all around the kingdom. Some little bit I know. I don't remember
Okay, it's
clearly.
not a horse
Uh,
sacrifice. Okay,
no,
what
no.
what happens is that a king, when he wants to expand his kingdom,
Yeah, Bhagwan Ram.
yeah, he lets the horse go. He just leaves the horse go, and wherever the horse is running, the soldiers follow. So whichever area the horse crosses, that is supposed to be having been conquered by the king. If the subsidiary Raja or people of that place object, then a war ensures. Right? So basically, it's a way of expanding the kingdom for a Kshatriya. And this is supposed to be one of the highest rituals in the Purva Veda because it's very expensive. And it can be done only by kings. So Shankara here explains why is that highest ritual taken here? It is to demonstrate that even the greatest karma remains within samsara. It's a very important idea. Otherwise, you'll wonder that, why in a Vedantic work, we are talking about expanding kingdoms. So Ashwamedha Yajna is a yajna where it is supposed to be one of the greatest karmas in the Purva Veda. And therefore, is Shankara explaining that take it as the intention is that even the biggest ritual, even the most expensive and highest ritual in the Veda, it is for demonstrating that finally the phalam and the karma and the phalam itself is within samsara. Right? And therefore, you should not, what is the idea of saying this? You should not think that karma is a means to moksha. That is the essence of the bhashya. Okay. Any questions? Okay. Now we go to the Shanti Patha. We will chant. We chanted every day, but we'll chant again. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam
Om
Om
Purnamada
Purnamadas
Purnamidam
Purnamidam
Purnat Purnamudachyate
Purnat
Purnat
Purnamudachyate
Purnamudachyate
Purnasya Purnamadaya
Purnas
Purnasya
Purnamadaya
Purnamadaya
Purnameva Vasishyate
Purnameva
Purnamevavashishyate.
Vashishyate
What do you
Om
think, Kamala?
Shanti Shanti Shanti
Om
Om
Shanti
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 Shanti.
The class is not over, okay? Don't think the class is over. This is the Shanti Patha. And now this Shantipata is from the uh, Shukla Yajurveda, as I said, because the Upanishad belongs to Shukla Yajurveda. And there is a particular way of chanting. In the Shukla Yajurveda, in this Shantipata, there is no Swarita. So, when you chant Om Purnamadam to Purnameva Vashishyate, it is the same tone. There is no raising of the notes. In the Shanti only, the Anudata is applied. Anudata, I hope you know. What is Anudata? Anudata is the lower note, right? So Om Shanti Shanti, the sh is low. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti, right? And this is different from the Om Shantis of other mantras. So this you should note that in this particular Shanti Pata, the sh in the Shantis is Anudata. The A is raised. Raised means it is normal tone. And T is again lower. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. It is not Swarita. It is Anudata, normal, Anudata again. Anyway, it's only for those who are in the chanting class. If you want to ask Tanmay, she will be able to chant better. Okay. This is the Shanti Pata of the Shukla Yajurveda. Right. There is normal Shanti Patas. What happens? We pray to the Lord to remove the obstacles and request our sense organs to be healthy and free, etc., etc. But in the Shanti Patha, you will notice there is no prayer asking for anything. What is the Shanti Patha actually doing? It is just stating a fact. It's a statement of fact. There is no request at all. You can make out, right? So let's see what is statement of facts. Purnam Adaha, right? Adaha means that. Purnam means complete, sarvavyapi, all pervading. Shankara translates Purnam as sarvavyapi, all pervading. And Adaha here refers to Tat Padartha, Ishvara. So the Purnam Adaha means Ishvara is Purnam. Ishvara is infinite. It's a statement of fact, right? There is no uh, request at all. There is no prayer. There is no request. Purnam Adaha means that Ishvara is statement of fact. Then Purnam Idam. Idam means this. So contextually, since Tat Padartha is Ishvara, Tvam Padartha is Idam. Idam means Tvam Padartha. Means what?
Jiva.
Jiva.
Jivatma, right?
Mhm.
So the first one is that Ishvara is Purnam. The second one is Jiva is Purnam. And this will immediately bring you to the Vachyartha and the Lakshyartha idea. So in analyzing any statement in Shastra, there are two meanings that you can take. One is the direct, literal meaning, primary meaning, which we call Vachyartha. One is the implied secondary meaning, which is called the Lakshyartha. Now, in applying these meanings, how to apply? So there is a Mimamsa rule. Mimamsa means analysis of Veda. So the rule is for analyzing.
Early morning, I broke one glass. Broke one glass.
Okay, somebody broke a glass. It was very unfortunate, but all right. I've just muted all of you. So I was saying, in Mimamsa, there is a rule for applying this Vachyartha and Lakshya. Okay. What is that? If the Vachyartha, you must first, whenever analyzing a statement, you must first apply the primary meaning, the Vachyartha. Only if that primary meaning does not fit in, then only can you take the secondary meaning. Right? You can take Lakshyartha only if primary doesn't fit in. If Vachyartha is making sense, then you cannot Take Lakshyartha. That is the meaning of, that is the Vimamsa rule. Now here, you are saying Purnamadaha, Purnamidam. So what is the primary meaning of the statements? Ishvara is infinite and Jiva is infinite. Can you accept the statement that Ishvara is infinite? Primary meaning is Ishvara is infinite. Purnam Adaha. Is it an acceptable statement?
Yes.
I think it is, yes, it is acceptable because we cannot, there's no place where we cannot find it. Everywhere it is miracle. Wherever you go, like right from the small little ant to like big trees and everything, it is all his creation.
Any other logic? Nobody has perceived Ishvara. Right? If you want to say that Ishvara is finite, either it is logic or it is perception. By
Like in
logic,
Hindi, we say, yeah,
by logic, you
you're right.
cannot say that Ishvara is infinite, but you have not seen Ishvara. And
Yeah.
therefore, there is nothing to contradict the statement that Ishvara is infinite. So, Tat Padam is infinite, you can accept. But when you say Jivatma is infinite, it's very difficult to accept because I don't pervade even, you know, half of a room. What talk about pervading everything? And therefore, when you talk about Jivatma, when you say Purnam Idam, then the Vachyartha does not fit. Because Jivatma means the person with the body-mind complex, right? The individual. And Vachyartha will not fit there. Because you cannot say that in my individual, my body, my mind is infinite. And therefore, you have to drop the Vachyartha and then go for the Lakshyartha. So Vachyartha of Jiva is, what is the Jivatma? Atma plus Shariram. That is the Vachyartha. But when you take the Lakshyartha, what do? You use Bhaga Tyaga Lakshana. When you use Bhaga Tyaga Lakshana, remember the words are Bhaga Tyagaha. Now the Vachyartha of Jiva is Atma plus body. Bhaga Tyagaha. Renouncing one part. Which part are you renouncing?
The body.
The
Anatma.
body. So
Mithya.
Lakshyartha, when you take Lakshyartha, you renounce the body. Shariram part is dropped. When you drop the Anatma Shariram, the Jiva is now equal to Atma, the Chaitanya. And that is very much infinite. And therefore, Jivatma is infinite from the Lakshyartha. Now, you have to extend the logic to Ishvara also. Ishvara is infinite from the point of Lakshyartha also. Is it not? We say Vachyartha wise, Ishvara is infinite because we have no perceptual proof that Ishvara is not infinite. But if you take Lakshyartha, also Ishvara is infinite. What is Lakshyartha of Ishvara? You are dropping the universe. The physical body of Ishvara, the universe, you are dropping. What remains is Chaitanyam, that is still infinite. Now, you have two statements. One is Ishvara is Purnaha. One is Jiva is Purnaha. Is there any problem with that statement?
It seems weird unless we equate the Lakshyartha. Because
No.
the
You have done the Lakshyartha. You've done the analysis. And now you have two statements. Ishvara Purnaha, Jiva Purnaha. Is there a problem with that? Because you have taken the Lakshyartha only. You are
how
not
can
taking the body
two
alone.
things,
Two things.
how
There cannot
can
be
two
two
things
Purnas.
being Purna?
Correct. There cannot be two Purnams. Logically, if there are two Purnams, what is the problem? What is the interpretation?
One is not.
Both are not.
Hmm.
Because each Purnam will limit the other. Right? You cannot say, I have a Purnam and I have a non-Purnam. The moment you say I have a Purnam and a non-Purnam, and you say they are separate, what are you saying? The non-Purnam is outside the Purnam. And therefore, Purnam is not really Purnam. Therefore, two Purnams are not logically possible. Therefore, you have to get the idea that Ishvara and Jiva are one and the same Purnam. The Vastu is not different, two different names. So, you are arriving at the Jivatma Paramatma Aikyam. What does that make this mantra?
Mahavakya.
Vakyam.
It's a Mahavakya, right? It's a Mahavakya. Therefore, Tat Pada Lakshyartha is the same as Tvam Pada Lakshyartha. The Aikyam between the two is what we call a Mahavakya. Thus, Purnamidam is Lakshyartha. No, rest of it. Purnat, Purnam Udachyate. From that Purna Ishvara, Tat Padartha, Purnam Udachyate. The first Purnam is Tat Pada Ishvara. Purnat. From that Purnam. Purnam Udachyate, Tvam Pada Jivata. Jiva is born. Right? So let us now apply the same logic. Apply Vachya. From Purnam, Purnam is born. When you say that, you are postulating that a second Purnam which is born was not existing earlier. But Purnam is infinite and existing in all the periods of time. Therefore, where is the question of a Purnam being born out of a Purnam? So the Vachyartha is absurd and cannot be taken. Right? Therefore, the Shruti must mean something else. What does it mean? From the standpoint of the Upadhis only, the Purna Jivatma is born from Purna Ishvara. Okay, this is a very important point. From the standpoints of Upadhis only, Purna Jivatma is born out of Purna Ishvara. Therefore, the Jiva's individual body, Vyashti Sharira, is born from Ishvara's body, Samashti Shariram. And therefore, there is a relationship. Remember that between the Chaitanyam part of Ishvara and Chaitanyam part of Jiva, there is no relationship because both are the same. But between the bodies, there is a relationship. Therefore, Karya Karna Sambandha is there between the Jiva's body and the Ishvara's body. There is a creator-created relationship. And therefore, from the Sopadika Drishti, Sopadika means what? Saha Upadika, with the Upadhis. From the viewpoint with the Upadhis, Sopadika, one is creator, one is created. When you drop the bodies from the Nirupadhika Drishti, there is no relationship at all because they are both the same. And that is why we give in Vedanta example that pot space is born, right? Kata Akasha is born. So when you say that pot space is born, do you mean to say that the space is born or the pot is born? We use the expression pot space is born when the pot is created, right? So are you saying, is the implication that space is born or pot is born? Remember, space can never be born. Then why do you say that Tatakasha is born, space is born? Because when you look at the space from the standpoint of the Upadi, the pot, from the Sopadika Drishti, pot space is born. But from the Nirupadika Drishti, from the viewpoint of space, pot space is never born. This is the way to analyze. From the viewpoint of the pot space is born. From the viewpoint of the space, pot space is never born. Similarly, from the viewpoint of the body, Jiva is born. From the viewpoint of his real nature, consciousness, Jiva is never born. That is the explanation of Purnat Purnam Udachyate. We chant this daily, right? But we should know all these meanings. Now, Purnasya Purnam Adaya Purnam Eva Avashishyate. Oh. So Jiva and Ishvara are Purnam. That means by nature they are infinite. And we further said that Jiva and Ishvara have got a creator created sambandha from the standpoint of the upadhi, the sharira. So, if we accept this, then Ishvara has a body and Jiva has a body. Both the bodies are upadhis. That means there are two things, right? The Atma having a body, Shariri Atma, and the Anatma, which is the body. Shariri means what? We have seen this in the Bhagavad Gita. Shariri is the Atma in the body. So when you say that Ishvara has a body and Jiva has a body, there are two things. Atma having bodies, Jiva, the Ishvara body as well as the Jiva body, and the body itself, the Shariram. Now, if you accept the Jiva's body and the Ishvara's body, how can you talk about the infiniteness of the one inside the body? Right? This is a question. If you accept the Anatma body, how can you talk about the Purnatvam of that which is within the body? Because there are two things. Two, you're talking about two Satyam things. Remember, here we are not come to Mithya yet. So we are saying, we are still following the argument. What is the argument? That both have bodies. Right? Now the point is, we are talking in Satyam terms. You have a Satyam Ishvara, a Satyam Jiva, who have got Satyam bodies. So the point is, if you accept the body and the Jiva, or the consciousness principle, there are two Satyams, the Atma and the Anatma. In both cases, in Jiva's case, there is an Atma which is Satyam, Anatma which is Satyam. Ishvara's case, there is a Atma which is Satyam, Anatma which is Satyam. How can you talk about Purnatva? And therefore, here, the Upanishad says that the Anatma Shariram is actually Mithya. And a Mithya Vastu, a Mithya entity, will not be able to affect the Purnatvam of the Satyam. Therefore, from the idea that Ishvara and Jiva have upadhis, you have to come to the idea that upadhi is Mithya. And a Mithya upadhi cannot cast a limitation upon the Upahitam, which is the Atma. But all this has to be extracted because in this mantra there is no mention of Mithya, right? And therefore you look at the Shanti Pataha, Purnasya. From that Sopadika Jiva, Purnasya means from the Purnam. What Purnam? From that Sopadika Jiva, who is a mixture of the Atma and Anatma, Purnam Adaya. Remove the Atma part, the Purnam part. So you have to very carefully see the argument. Purnasya, from that Sopadika Jiva, who is a mixture of the body and the Atma, remove the Purnam part. The Purnam part is what? The Atma. Therefore, from Jivatma, who is Atma plus body mind complex, you remove the Atma. What should remain?
Only the anatma part will remain there.
Only anatma
Mm.
part will remain. That should remain, right? But what
Yeah.
does the mantra say? Purnam eva avishyasate. Purnam eva avishashate. Purnam alone remains. So they are saying that from that Jivatma, which is the mixture of Atma and Anatma, you remove the Atma. But Upanishad says that Anatma does not remain. Even then, only Atma remains. The body does not remain. Ultimately, what? Nothing is left. Right? So if you say that I remove Atma from Jivatma and only Atma remains, you are saying nothing else is left. There is no Anatma at all. So from this statement, what must it deduce? The Anatma is Mithya. It's dependent upon Atma. And if Atma is reduced or removed, the dependent entity also vanishes. And therefore, the body must be Mithya, must be unreal. So the name and form is Mithya from the Vedantic point of view. This is the meaning of the Upanishad, of the particular mantra. I don't think we have seen this meaning before. But essentially, it is Brahma Satyam Jagat Mithya, Jiva Brahmaiva Naparaha. It is the entire Vedantic teaching which is conveyed in one Shanti mantra. Okay. Now, if anybody is looking at original manuscripts or some translations, you will find that the Shanti Patha doesn't occur in the beginning. It actually occurs in the beginning of the fifth chapter. And Shankara's commentary, which we just discussed, is actually available there. Right? But to avoid confusion, many modern texts they present the Shanti Patha following the normal format in the very beginning. And I have done that also. We have taken the Shanti Patha in the very beginning. Remember, actually, it's at the beginning of Khilakhanda, which is the fifth chapter, fifth adhyaya. Okay. Now, what is this particular khanda called Upadesha Khanda? We said this in the very beginning, right? Upadesha Khanda means the teaching which Upadesha means teaching. Khanda is section. It is a section which reveals the teaching. What is the teaching about? Obviously, Brahman. Now, Brahman is extremely subtle and not available to perception. And therefore, a particular method is used, a particular prakriya is used to reveal Brahman, which is called Adhyaropa Apavada. Right? So the whole thing is revealing Brahman using this particular prakriya, methodology of Adhyaropa Apavada. This is the text of this Upadesha Khanda. And before we go on to the first mantra, a few general remarks. To understand the Adhyaropa Apavada concept, Prakriya, we have to know three concepts. Sat, Sat, and Mithya, which you all know by now. I'm just formally repeating. Asat means not available, not existing in all the three frames of time. So in Sanskrit, Trikale api avidhyamanam iti asat. That which does not exist in any of the three time frames. It is called asat. Then there is sat. The definition is very simple. Trikale api vidhyamanam iti sat. What exists in all the three frames of time is called sat. And the third concept is mithya. Sat, asat, vilakshanam, iti mithya. That which is different from asat and sat, that is mithya. Right? That is the first. We should know these three concepts very clearly and remember them. The second point is that Mithya is always born from the Satyam because it exists because of the substratum, the Satyam, and resolves into the substratum, Satyam. Therefore, Mithya has a dependent existence depending upon the substratum, which is Satyam. Right? And from this, we have the general rule that all temporary things, all Mithya vastus, they have only dependent existence. They cannot have independent existence. In fact, the only thing which has independent existence is Brahman. And since all Mithya vastus have dependent existence, all Mithya vastus depend upon the only Satyam, that is Brahman. How do we apply these concepts here? Adhyaropa means a superimposition. So remember that in Mandukya we said there is no existence at all. There is no world at all, right? So Adhyaropa means the Veda as a beginning tactic, as a beginner's teaching tactic, accepts that the world exists. This is called Adhyaropa. And having accepted the existence, then Shruti talks about the creation of the world, the plurality of the world, right? The mean existence of means and ends, the existence of laws which govern means and ends. All this discussion is there. This is called Adhyaropa. It's the initial provisional acceptance of the world's existence. This is all for the beginner, the junior student. In the later teachings, which are meant for senior student, the same Shruti will negate the existence of the world. And it goes on to negate everything that exists. So in short, Adhyaropa is the provisional acceptance of the world. Apavada is at the ending, negating the world. Right? Now, let us apply what we have, those three definitions. Since Shruti accepts the existence of the world cannot be called Asat. Asat means what? That which is not available in any of the three time frames. Therefore, when Shruti accepts the world's existence, in the Shruti's viewpoint, the world is definitely not Asat. Okay, that is the first idea. Now, in the later part of the later teaching for the senior students. So, in the beginning, for the junior students, Shruti says world exists. Therefore, you cannot take the world as asat, complete non-existence. In the later part of the teaching, Shruti negates the world for the senior students. And therefore, since there it says world doesn't exist, you cannot categorize the world under sat also. So because of the first junior students teaching, you have to say the world is not asat. Because of the second senior students teaching, you have to say the world is not sat also. Because sat is that which is permanently existent. And what is permanently existent cannot be dismissed or destroyed or negated. What then? The world has to be accommodated in the last category of mithya. Mithya vastu cannot exist independently because mithya world enjoys dependent existence. And therefore, mithya world depends upon the adhishthanam to support it. That adhishthanam, that substratum, is we call satyam. What is that satyam? You cannot say that anything in the world is satyam. You cannot say that anything in the universe is satyam because the whole universe is now categorized as mithya. Therefore, that satyam can only be what is not available within the universe. And there is only one thing which is not available within the universe. And that Vastu alone is Satya. What is that Vastu? That Vastu is I, the observer of everything. So I, the Chaitanya Rupena Sakshi. I alone am Satyam. Therefore, when the whole world is negated, Satyam becomes all that remains. And that Satyam is I, myself. What is the advantage of this knowledge? I know that nothing in the Mithya world can affect me. Just like the clay can never be affected by the pot. So this Adhyaropa Apavada method is the topic of Upadesha Khanda. The first two chapters of the Upanishad deal with this. The first chapter deals with Adhyaropa. The second chapter deals with Apavada. These two chapters taken together are called Upadesha Kanda. Remember, there are 6 chapters. So in the Adhyaropa Prakriya, the world is accepted and divided into Avyakrita Prapancha and Vyakrita Prapancha. Right? Later on, you will find that the Vyakrita Prapancha, the manifest universe, is also called Nama Rupa Karmatmakam Prapancha. Therefore, the manifest universe, Vyakrita Prapancha, is divided into 3: Nama, Rupa, Karma. Karma here means function, not the Sanchita and Prarabdha Karma. So that is the Vyakrita Prapancha. And there is another division of Vyakrita Prapancha, which is Sadhana Prapancha and Sadhya Prapancha. The first chapter discusses Sadhyam and Sadhanam and Vyakrita. So in the first chapter, you will find that the first 3 sections, the Brahmanas, they deal with varieties of Sadhana Prapancha. Right? Shruti is bothered about the means and the ends discussed in the Vedas. It doesn't bother about the means and the ends of the material world. And in these sadhanas, you get 3 sadhana sections. You get 3 different meditations, upasanas. They are Ashva Upasana, Upasana on the horse, Agni Upasana, Upasana on Agni, Prana Upasana, Upasana on Prana. Right? And later on, the sadhya of the very end will be discussed as Hiranya Garbha Padam. The first Brahmanam, the first section is called Ashva Brahmanam. And horse Upasana is the topic here. Upasana on the horse. Okay. Incidentally, the Upasana is of 2 types, you all know. Swatantra Upasana, Upasana done independently to gain some benefits. Karmanga Upasana, which is Upasana which is not independent. It is done along with the karma. Right? So in this Upasana, the ritual alone is the Angi, the main. And the Angi alone gives the phala. But that ritual has got many ancillary, subsidiary rituals. And one of them is Upasana. To give an example, when you do Vishnu Sahasranama, you start with Avahanam, right? So before you start the Archana, you do the Dhyana. What is the main ritual? The Archana itself, the Vishnu Sahasranama itself. So that Archana is the Angi and the meditation, the Dhyanam, Atha Dhyanam. That is the Angam, the Karma Angam. And here, remember, Ashva Upasana is discussed not as a independent Upasana, but as a Karmanga Upasana, a subsidiary Upasana to a Karma. The Ashwa Upasana, which was discussed in this section, is originally a Karmanga Upasana, which is a meditation, part of the Ashwamedha Yajna. And I said it's one of the greatest yajnas supposed to be there. And therefore, there is a saying, he has done all the karmas from Agnihotram to Ashwamedha. That's saying he has done every karma possible. Agnihotram is therefore treated as the most basic ritual, lowest ritual in Vedic karma. And Ashwamedha is the highest ritual. And in Ashwamedha Yajna, the horse has to be used. In fact, the word Medha here means Yajna. And when they use a horse as part of the ritual, as a karma anga, there is a meditation upon the horse. So Ashva Upasana is actually a part of Ashwamedha Yajna. What is the problem? Ashwamedha Yajna is only for Kshatriyas. Therefore, other people are not adhikaris. And if you want to do Ashwamedha Yajna, what must you do? You must do only the Ashwa Upasana. You cannot do the Yajna part because you are not adhikari. Now, in the case of the non-adhikaris, Ashwa Upasanam becomes an independent Upasana because you are not eligible for the karma. And therefore, you are not going to do it as part of the karma, but you are going to do it as part of the Upasana, by independent Upasana. And in this section, that particular independent Upasana is being talked about. So with this, we'll stop for today. Heavy, huh?
Yes.
Okay. So
Yes,
please,
we will listen
please
again.
do listen again.
Yes,
Om
definitely.
Purnamada
Om
Purnamidam
Purnamidam
Purnamudachyate
Purnamudachyate
Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vasishyate
Purnamevavasishyate.
Om
Om
Shanti Shanti
Shanti
Shanti
Shanti.
Om Tat Sat
Om
Om Namah
Om Namah
Shivaya. Thank you for
Shivaya.
your
Thank
patience.
you,
Om Om
Dada.
Om.
Thank you so much.